This
afternoon.
conference will now be recorded.
I'm sorry, I'm getting a little feedback here. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming to our November board meeting. Could I ask everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Thank you. Thank you very much. So before we get started, I want to make sure that we've properly introduced our new general manager, Darlene. So Darlene, would you stand up? I know that many people were at the meet and greet. So Darlene has been with us, has it been a month yet? Or a month this week. So we are delighted to have her as our general manager. And she'll be giving after I do the president's report, she'll be doing a management report. And then for those of you who are also unaware, I'm assuming most everyone in this room is because you are the enlightened people, but that Mike Nice has been promoted to operations manager. So we're delighted for both of them. So with that, Darlene, I'd like for you to do a roll call and establish a quorum and then read the homeowner statement.
Sorry. Board President Barbara,
Present.
Vice President Ron Woodward,
Present.
Board Secretary Marilyn Sorensen,
Present.
Board Treasurer Becca Paulson,
Present.
Board Members at Large or Board of Directors Marie Bashan,
Present.
Steve Deal,
Present.
Roberta Ernst.
Present.
Thank you. Okay, homeowner statement. In person, speaker may speak for no more than 2 minutes. If attending virtually, please mute your audio. Please use the chat option for your questions. Comments should be addressed to concerns of the motion before the board takes formal action on any item under formal discussion on the table. Negative comments directed at residents, employees of the association, or board of directors will not be allowed.
Thank you. We've never documented what the ramifications are if we don't allow those. We'll have to come up with something. So next on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from October 13th, 2022. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? That was Marilyn. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Anyway, so were there any questions, comments, concerns, corrections that need to be made on the minutes that are in your packet and have been posted? Seeing none, was there anything that the residents might have noted that needed to be changed or corrected? Seeing none, then the motion is to approve the minutes from October 13th, 2022. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Next on the agenda is that the financial report, and we have asked Don Oberg, our accountant, to give us, provide us a financial update. So Don, you're on.
Again, I'm Dawn. Good afternoon. As of September 30th, and you have to excuse me, I can't see very well. Our operating cash was $1,079,396. The reserve was $3,702,682. Activities, $182,968. Food was $10,944. The clubs, $130,065. Asset improvement was $784,655.
Any questions from any of the board members or any resident? Sue? What was the food?
The food is basically the equity left over after all the bills have been paid and all the money had come in. So that's what's left over.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you. So the next thing is to approve the actual financials from September 22. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
A second? Any question or comments on the financials that we have in our packet? They have gone through the budget committee, and the budget committee has looked through them and didn't find any variances of question. Nothing from the board? Anything from the residents? So the motion on the table is to approve the financials reports from September 2022. Can I, everyone in favor, say aye? Great, thank you. Next thing on the agenda is the committee reports. We have a couple of reports. First one from Building Grounds and Maintenance. Steve, as liaison, would you take over?
I won't take over, but I'd like to introduce Mike Perry. I know he's here. I saw him earlier. Oh, couldn't be any closer. Who will kind of give a rundown of where we're at, what we're doing, and where we'd like to be. And the fact that I'm going to put this plug in before Mike starts. If you're interested in being on the Building Grounds and Maintenance Committee, we do have an opening, and we have an opening for someone who maybe would be interested in being our recorder. So if you're interested in that, Lauren, you want to stand up? Lauren Hansen is a person that coordinates all of our volunteers for those committees. So if you're interested, get a hold of Lauren, fill out the report so we can get that in order and have a quorum every time that we're supposed to have a meeting. Mike.
I'm Mike Perry. I'm the chairman of the BGM committee. I don't have it high enough, sorry. I'm the chairman of the BGM committee. This committee is chartered to help maintain the assets of this facility and keep the maintenance and the grounds and all those things in good working condition so that they're an asset to the community and available for everybody's use. So here's a couple of the bigger projects that we've been working on. If you've had a chance to drive up and down through the area, Section 9, which is going out the Walgreen Gate and all that up and down Tumbleweed, we milled all that out and refinished all that this summer. A huge project. I'm very, very satisfied with the way how that's turned out, how smooth it is, how well it drains. There's no bird, I call them bird baths, water pockets in the road. There's not many of those, one or two. A couple of those because we've had some issues with some of the curbing settling around, and we're going to try to address those. Do have a punch list. Contractors run over 2 or 3 trash cans and a couple of things like that, you know. So we got a few of those things to clean up a little bit. All of the roof of the first phase of the downtown has been completed except for a couple of the flat roof sections, and they're being done on today. But they had to be worked with in conjunction with the replacement of some large air conditioning units that had reached the end of their lifespan. So that project is still ongoing and should be finished up within a month or so. I don't even want to bring this up, but the pool here, it is in place, okay? Has been installed. I don't know whether all of the final inspections have been done because they have to be done by the city of Surprise to make sure that it meets the specifications required for that size of pool to do that kind of work, and the venting of that furnace, or it's actually a boiler, is done correctly, and all the safety precautions are in place for that particular unit. That's supposed to take place in a very short term. I thought it was going to be done this week, maybe next week. Okay, some of you may know about the cell tower we're doing down here that T-Mobile's going to put in down by the maintenance shop in the north storage area. That has been surveyed. All the legal work has been completed on that, and construction is going to start as soon as they get it all organized for us. Cascades, all you people been into the Cascades bathrooms? Absolutely. Didn't the guys do a great job on that? Most of that work was done by our maintenance crew this summer. And we did have some contractors come in and do the floors and do the solid surface areas, but the painting and all of that was all done by our guys. They did a tremendous job on that. It really has increased the asset value of that particular property. Now, if I can get the outside done and make it look a little better on the outside, we'll continue working on that a little piecemeal at a time. There were some volunteers. Michael, where is Michael? Can you read off those three ladies that helped us with some of the decoration in there, please, sir?
Yes, Beverly Youngren, Karen Lacey, and Jan Shodine.
So those three ladies chipped in and helped us during the summer with some of the, I'm pretty good at building, but as far as picking out colors, I'm colorblind, so I don't know any of that stuff. So the ladies did a tremendous job on that. It was a great asset to that. Our solar project is kind of on hold until we get some more roofs put on. I can't really put solar on roofs and then tear it off and put it back on after we get the new roofs on. So we're still talking to folks, trying to get that done to see what our possible overall cost of that could be. The pool decks, those have been evaluated and are going to be done. I hopefully don't do them during the season, but hopefully we're working on that. And that's a real short overview of what we got going on. We got a bunch of smaller projects that we did this summer, some landscaping, some places where we got rid of big river rock around some of the parking lot areas over in the villas, so they would, and put in gravel and stuff so it's not trip hazard for people to getting in and out of their cars. We put in some drainage projects over there to help drain the water off that area that we've had problems with in the past. So this is kind of where we're going. We still have more streets to do this next year. We got more roofs to put on, and we're going to continue trying to get this place where we can get some energy conservation through our solar project work. So I encourage you, if you want to be involved in the BGM, we'd love to have some folks. We need some varied backgrounds. We never need the same people over and over again. So if you have some short-term things you'd like to come in and help us with, we would certainly appreciate your help. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. The next committee report comes from the Safety Committee. Roberta is the liaison for that. So Roberta, what I see on my note here is that we have a motion to approve a new member.
I move that I motion that we approve the new member for our safety committee, Mr. Jack Gresham.
Okay, Jack Gresham. I'll second that. Any discussion from the board members? Jack's been a long-term resident of Happy Trails and has been involved in other things. Also, probably got coerced into this because his wife is on the board, but that happens. Any other comments from any member? Any comments from any resident? All in favor of the motion to approve Jack Gresham for the Patrol and Safety Committee, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Next, Roberta, they have an email update. It's on page 19 of your board packet, page 19. So I can read it. It was from George to Darlene. It says the safety committee has had a relatively quiet start to the season. We had a full plate last year, and the only open business to address our first meeting will be defining our mission statement, signage at the town center exit by the horseshoe pits, key cards, and possible additional security cameras. So those are the things that the committee is hoping to work on.
Right, our first meeting is next week, so.
Thanks. There's no action that needs to be taken on that. The next thing on the agenda is there's no old business that's under new business. As the liaison to activities, I'll make the motion. We have a motion to approve the proposal from A1 Billiards to level 8 pool tables in the billiards room, and the quote is for $1,600. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. So, and Fred is here, right? Okay, there you are. You might want to come up and steal the microphone from Mike Perry. Okay, thank you. So, as part of the pool heater installation and the determination to put it in part of the billiards room, so there'd be easier access to it. It involved creating a space within there, and part of the bid was the company doing it moved 3 of your tables, professionals moved them back. In the process, they are leveling that. So that expense for those 3 pool tables is coming out of the cost of the installing of the pool heater. Well, then the billiards group said, well, since they're here, it's my understanding that you were able to get a better bid from them to do the leveling on the other 8 pool tables that you have in there. Is that correct?
Yes, if
Go
I
ahead.
may. My name's Fred Newcomb, and I live at lot 449. And in my 25 years here, this is only the 3rd time that the billiard club has gone to the board for any means of improvement. So the tables were put in 2015, and they have received a lot of use. And they're at the point right now that our game level has diminished, if you will, because of the tables being out of level. So that's the reason that I've gone to Darlene and Mike, and also you, Barb, to request these funds. So I would really appreciate it. And 50 of our members would also appreciate your
How
approval.
many?
50.
50 members.
We have 50 now, yes, and more each day. So, and I'll comment one more thing if I may. As people come in that billiard room, they're really astonished at the quality of the tables and the activity that we have going on there. So it's a super place to be a member of, and we have a lot of fun there. So I'd appreciate your approval.
Any questions that the board has for Fred?
I'm sorry, Fred. Did you say how many members? Did you say 50? How many members did you say you had?
Well, we have 50 right now.
50, okay.
Yes.
I have a question. Is the billiard room ever open to people other than members?
Yes.
My understanding is it's locked most of the time, so I just want to know.
Well, the reason we do that, years back, we had an instance where someone had entered the billiard room and got into some of our personal cue sticks and stole them and did damage to some of the tables. So that's why we lock the doors. And this is one thing too, that you don't necessarily need to be a member of billiards to come in and participate with any of our games. It's open to residents and renters. So
I still have a question in that, when is it open? I've gone by there many times and the door's locked.
well, and here again, the reason that we do lock it is because of security. Anybody can call the patrol shack, and if they have time, they'll come down and open up that door for people to come in. But here's the catch. If they do that, then the people that are entered into the billiard room are responsible for maintaining the room. And if anybody should come into the room and is rowdy or whatnot, they're responsible for that. So there's a reason for that. I don't know what else to tell you other than that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I have a question too, sir.
We'll open it up for the residents.
No.
Yeah, just hold on 1 minute,
As
sir.
soon as we're done with the board questions, then we'll open up for the residents.
So my question is, what is the financial capability of the billiards club? Recently, the pickleball club contributed approximately 50% of having the courts resurfaced this last summer. So I'm just curious as to how much the billiard club might be willing to participate or donate to getting these tables leveled.
Well, I shared this with both Darlene and Mike and also with Barb. We have funds that if we would pay for the releveling of the tables, it's going to deplete everything we have in our checking account. So we do have to replace billiard sticks. We have to pay for materials to clean all the balls. We have an expensive ball cleaning machine that we use. So, and we pay for that. And it's like I said at the beginning, this is only the third time in the 25 years I've been here that we've gone to the board to ask for any funds. And if you really look at it, $1,600 isn't really that much to bring these tables back up to the quality that they were when they were installed in 2015.
I recall just recently when the Billiards Club asked for $2,500 to recover one of the tables.
That, to my knowledge, didn't happen.
It didn't happen?
No. I don't
We
remember that.
denied it. We denied it, but it was a request. So it was not the
Oh.
first time it's gone with a request. My
Oh.
question is, could the Billiards Club in good faith pay half of it? We're not asking you to replete all your funds, but could you pay half of it? I mean, we're all in austere times. We're just asking for participation is all.
We could do that, certainly. Yeah.
One of the things that I learned after I came and spoke to you, and one of the things your club members told me when I was there, and just by the way, while I was there, there were at least 10 members in the area playing pool. All of them men, I noted, but pardon me? Oh, it doesn't keep me from going in there, no. Anyway, everyone's very active, and that was definitely there. What one of your members said was that it really is best practice that these tables be leveled annually. Is that the expectation? When they said that the best practice was that these tables be leveled annually?
Oh, yes. You know, we're the only resort in the area that don't level our tables every year. Sunflower, for instance, levels and recovers 10 tables every year. So, and you know, that's quite expensive. So when we come asking for the $1,600, that's gonna, you know, really help the quality of our play.
Okay, all right.
And that's the only reason that I've even gone to Darlene and Mike. So.
And then I also looked up on YouTube, it's quite an extensive process
Yes,
to
it
do this.
is.
It's not something that I personally could do or the average person. Is it something that some of your club members with experience could learn how to do at least a reasonable leveling in the future if they were properly trained and certified and we had the equipment? Or does it always have to be done by a professional?
No,
Is really my
certainly that, you know, that could happen. The thing that they use when they level a tournament table is an engineer's level.
An engineer's
And-
level.
And these tables have 16 points of leveling that need to be done when they're leveled. So it's a matter of loosening this bolt, tightening this bolt to bring the length of the table, the width of the table, into levelness. So
Okay.
it takes quite a bit.
Good.
It does.
And then I think another question we have is, tell us about your tournament play. Is that what-
And that kind of rides on what I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say. And that is that many of our clubs, to defer some of their costs, have fundraisers or activities that people can come into and help raise those funds. And if you need those tables leveled more frequently, I don't know what your yearly activities are, but maybe that would be a consideration that you start some type of fundraiser to help defer these costs for these tables.
Steve, I believe that you're the only one on the dais here that owns a pool table and has leveled pool tables?
Old school, hit and miss, keep trying. Several hours later, it's good enough to play, and I knew where the low spots were. That was an advantage. However, it is a very complicated process.
Ron, you had another question?
It's not a question, it's a comment. For any group coming in requesting things from the board, it would help tremendously to have some background information and some clarification information. The only thing we get is a bill from A1 Billiards LLC for $1,600, but there's no justification or no explanation of why these need to be leveled. So it would help if that comes forward with a request to head off a lot of these questions. Thank you.
Well, in years past, the board enabled us to do that when we would have our little, more or less, presentation meetings.
Yeah.
To where when we had a request like that, we could meet with the members and outline our needs.
Yeah.
So
We'll get there. Okay. Any other questions from any board member before we open it up to the residents? Seeing none, what sort of questions do the residents have? Raise your hand. Stand on the table. How much does each table cost?
well, we got a deal on our tables when we had them installed. We had 10 tables, old tables that were here from the beginning of the association. And it was the board's request to us that we get rid of each table. And if we did that, some of the money would go towards purchasing the new tables. And I could be wrong. I've been wrong once before. But anyway, I'm thinking the tables were in the area of around $45,000.
Right.
That was the number that I remember. I was here in 2015 when those tables were replaced. So I'm gonna have to be on your side to perpetuate that asset at $45,000. $1,500 doesn't seem like a lot of money to me. Okay?
Bill Rhodes, lot 830. Those tables are an asset to the resort, and assets also command maintenance. And I believe those tables are in the reserve.
Right. Okay. Mhm.
I'm Todd Box. I'm on 1527. I'm with Ron. Last year, the pool billiards club came to the board with a request. At least today, we have somebody here that's presenting the request, because I believe back then there was no one here in the room to present the request to the board. So congratulations. I also believe that the billiards is an asset to the community. However, I had a couple questions. One is, what does it cost to be part of the billiards club? I think what I read was $10. which if you took your 50 members times $10, you make $500 a year. Simple math tells me it'd take you 3 years to be close to leveling these tables. Is that correct?
Yes.
So maybe, I'm just speculating that maybe time for a $5 or $10 increase in the club dues that would potentially help offset some of these costs, as well as the potential of some other membership fundraiser of some sort.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from the residents? Okay.
Conrad Revenig, 1150. In comment about access, when I first tried to get access to go in, I also came up against a locked door. But at the same time, for me anyway, it was fairly simple to get in there. There's a sign, little sign on the door that says to contact security to get access to the room. And from that point on, I knew people that were there or whatever, and I had a code at that point in time to be able to get in and out. So it is fairly easy to get in and go there, but it's just not open to walk right in for anybody to walk by and walk in. So that was my experience.
Thank you. Yeah, when I met with Fred, we talked about potential ways of fundraising and all, and just even the happy hours that go on. And would be a good opportunity to open your doors and let people see the beautiful site that you have. Any other questions before I move on to take a vote?
I would like to know if we have any kind of a recommendation from management relative to this.
Wants to know whether we have a recommendation from management?
Just my opinion.
Yes.
I also do not feel that the $1,600 is a big expense to the association, especially considering that the pool tables have not been labeled since they've been purchased. And if it's suggested that they're leveled every year, we're pretty much behind schedule as it is. I do understand the board has to make the final decision, but that's my input.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll go on for the motion then. And Darla, my experience is, or my practice is that if it's anything regarding money, we do a roll call vote. So the motion on the table is to approve the proposal from A1 Billiards to level 8 of the pool tables at the expense of $1,600. So could you do a roll call vote, please?
Sorry. Barbara Fugelberg?
Pardon me. The board here is asking me that he's offered to pay half. So I will amend the motion to ask that the billiards club pay half of this. I believe there's ways that Thelma can help them figure out a way of having them do a break even on that. Don't you think, Thelma? Okay, all right. So the motion would be for that they would pay half of the $1,600.
Okay. Barbara Fugelberg?
Yes.
Ron Woodward?
With the amendment, yes.
Becca Paulson?
With the amendment, yes.
Okay. Mary? I'm sorry, Marie?
Yes.
Marilyn Sorensen?
Yes.
Steve Deal?
Yes.
Roberta Ernst?
With the amendment, yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you. So what I hear is that the billiards club could probably do a better job of marketing themselves so that all the residents are aware of the wonderful spots you have in there. For those of you who haven't been in there, it really is quite an impressive situation. Okay, so next on the agenda is a couple of variances. Marilyn, as liaison to the DRC committee, would you like to start?
Yes, we've had two requests for variances on property to do improvements on property in the villas. And the properties they want to do the improvement on are common properties. And do we need a motion yet? You want a motion? All right, I move to approve the variances for lot 2171 for brickwork on common property.
I'll second that. Okay, so tell us about this.
And so as I was saying, the area that they wish to put the brick on is common area. And the purpose is for its walking preferences to the stone and also the appearance. The problem is that the DRC guidelines say that we cannot put materials on common area that belong to the private owner of a lot. So that's one of the reasons they had to bring it to the board, is because the DRC committee cannot make a recommendation for approving something that is against the guidelines as they currently stand. Is there any other comments?
What other questions do we have from the board members?
I just like to make a comment. I went out and looked at both of these yesterday, and I certainly understand why the policy is the way it is, but I think that we have to consider making some changes to that policy, particularly where there's a lot of that loose rock area with elderly people. And this one is to extend from one property along a cement patio fronting the other property. And it's in an area that is well maintained by the owners, and there's no utilities or anything in that space.
So Rana, I want to make sure I understand where you're seeing that, because I'm looking at the picture and I know there's a section that says pavers private, which I think that goes between the two properties mentioned.
Yeah.
But then there's a section of 3 feet that extends from their patio into the common area, which looks like that's a view of the golf course. So that's where they have like the potted plants and that?
Yeah.
So that would be common area, but the other area would be a private section. Do you see what I'm saying on the? Okay. So the.
Can't hear you, Ron.
Pavers. The areas marked for the pavers in the photo is where where you see the pots there. It's between those pots and the slab itself.
Right, but that's the common area. So,
Yes.
so I got that.
Well,
But
the
then,
common area extends all the way out to the golf course.
correct. But then there's the other section on the, I guess that would be on the right side of it, where it's pavers, which would be under the private section. Is that the one that butts up against the other property?
Yes.
The homeowner is here. If you could come forward. Lucretia? We'll get you a microphone.
The private property is between the lots of
A
2170.
little louder, please.
The private property where the pavers are being asked to be installed are private property between 2170 and 2171. And I have approval for that because that is private property. The part that is on common property that I'm asking for the variance is the 3 feet in front of 2170, which is common ground that is facing out towards the golf course.
Thank you.
My question is, the part that's facing towards the golf course, is that on would that 3 feet be on golf course property?
No.
No,
that
it's
is
Happy
common
Trails property.
And there is probably another 25 feet of common property before the golf course.
So the couple of things, because we've had a number of these requests in the past. And the one issue that we've gotten from our legal department is that by extending this onto common area, if there was it still would be common area. And for people to be walking on it, if there was a fall, we would really be liable, not the homeowner. So the legal department has always cautioned us about requesting this, about approving these things, and we have not approved them in the past, so we've been consistent about that. The concern I have is that it is potentially extending the patio, which if it was my patio, I probably would want extended too. But for those of you who have golf course property adjacent to the golf course now, you know that within the last couple of years, there's been a big kerfuffle when Jason said that for many of these, of the residents who have encroached onto his property, that he was going to tear it all down. And then we had the issue about who owns that property. And we've made it pretty clear to the DRC that no request to extend onto golf course property would ever be approved because of anyone then coming to buy your property, Lucretia, which I know you plan being there for a long time, might think that that's all belongs to you, because that's the issue that people who have golf course property now who have encroached on the golf course have noticed that the buyer thinks that all belongs to you when it doesn't. So my concern is more of the long term, in that then it views like, well, then that extends your property, and then your property gets extended and extended and extended. So.
Let me address your two issues. One is the safety issue, and I would submit that walking on pavers, and I just changed mine last year, because I believe that walking on pavers is far safer in common area and on your property than it is walking on that gravel, which washes out and you've got holes all through it. The second thing about the golf course property is if you walk out there and look at it, it's a good 30 feet or 40 feet out to the possible area where it might be golf course property. It's not like the other ones that are up against the golf course property. There is another villa that's at the bottom of this picture that you're looking at there. There's another villa that extends a good 40 feet out there toward the golf course property, and that would be where the edge of the golf course property would be. So I don't see the safety issue. I think it's a safety improvement. As a matter of fact, I walked and looked at the other one yesterday too, and there's a number of areas where those rocks get moved around by birds or washed out by water, and I would consider them, for elderly people, at least for my wife, it'd be unsafe to walk on.
Let me just add that the problem we're having is not the request, but the fact that the guidelines have stated that we will not put infrastructure on common property that belongs to a lot. And so when we start with one, you're not going to be able to tell someone else they can't, not fairly. And you may not really agree with the materials they want to use. They may not be as permanent as the paver. And you can't start saying, well, we like pavers, but we don't like whatever else you want to put out there. So we're going to choose not to let you, but we're going to let you do it. And so it really opens a big black box if we don't stick with the rules. Now, rules can be changed and we can approach it from a rules situation should there be enough requests to do so and we feel that's viable. But it is very difficult when you start saying that the Smiths can do it, but the Joneses cannot, because we like what the Smiths are doing and we don't like what the Joneses are doing. Therefore, we just make a blank statement that includes everyone and try to be fair and say, no, the common property will be maintained by the staff here at Happy Trails and it will all be conformed to one standard. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the board before I open it up for the residents? Seeing none. Questions, comments from the residents?
Go ahead.
Okay, so Lucretia Chilcote, lot 2171. As far as the safety issue, the bricks are much safer. As far as the safety issue, the bricks are much safer than the rocks. The villa area has lots of rocks all over it, which is a major safety issue without a variance for people just walking in and amongst the villas. As far as maintaining the property, all of the common property in the villas are being maintained supposedly by our extra homeowners dues, and the yard people come through and take care of it. But they have too much to do, and us property owners in the villas take care of a lot of that, as I do in that lot. So it would not be, it would help the maintenance people, yard people, not to have as much property to take care of by having the stones there, as well as drainage, as well as safety. And the big issue is safety. And there are a number of villas in the area who have had bricks, pavers put in, and water does drain on that. And it has been approved, the pavers have been approved down by the pool for safety issues. They've been approved in front of other people's houses for walkways, for all kinds of things. And I'm just hoping that you will see the right thing to do and approve this for a safety reason along with the other things. Thank you.
Madam President.
We have the questions from the residents right now, Steve.
I'm William Boucher, lot 936. Who's actually walking on this property?
Say that again, please.
Who is walking on this property? Are they using it as their own personal sidewalks, or is it, they're just out for a walk?
That's, I don't walk that way, so I'm making the assumption it's the homeowners walking along that pathway and not on the sidewalks that are around it. It sounds like maybe there aren't enough sidewalks. There's a question in the back right next to Lucretia. Oh,
Yes, I'm next.
Jim.
Jim Clymer, lot 642. Having served on the DRC committee and faced this problem several times, why doesn't the resort look at a upgrade and improvement project for the villas? They've really been ignored, if you will. And a common theme, if you will, throughout the villa area would probably spruce that thing up really nice, and I'm sure the residents would like it.
So just as a reminder to people that one of our very first assessments that we had is about $128 a person 3 years back was for an awful lot of landscaping in through Happy Trails Boulevard and parts of the entrances to the villas. And there was an additional phase that never got implemented due to costs that would have been improving much of the common areas within the villas. So that is something we should probably look at more. Okay. Yes, name and lot number, please.
Sherry Gilson, lot number 2178. These are areas that are not used for everybody in the villas to walk on, play games. Between a sidewalk and a villa is a small area. I would really like to see all the board members to come and see what we're asking for. It's only to make our property and the villas look so much nicer. Keep the rocks from constantly falling onto the sidewalk, which is a definite safety issue.
Thank you.
Barbara?
Yes, Steve.
I would like to have the board in the near future, have the DRC committee look at all of that structure relative to common ground. We have areas in the resort that have 7-foot common ground areas that are not usable supposedly. However, there's a wall there. I happen to live in one of those and had no idea that 7 feet of that was common property. What in the world they'd ever do with it, I don't know. There's no utilities there. So it looks to me like that's an issue that needs to be looked into and come up with some kind of a resolution that puts us in a position that we don't have to worry about what legal says, and that we can be concerned about the use that the owner of the property has. You give up X feet on both sides, X feet in the back. You can't have it closer than so much in the front, depending upon where you're at. And there's no consistency to it except to say no. And I don't think that's always an acceptable answer.
Yeah. My name is Bob Walls, lot 2369. I visit the villas a lot. And I've got a lot of friends down there. I support the villas. I think for safety reasons, as Ron mentioned, that it should be done. It should be taken care of. Because I've gone down there, I've danced on some of those books. You have to be very careful. I've walked down there. Sometimes you have to walk off the walkways onto the rocks just to get to the area. It's a basic safety feature and an improvement. It's going to look a lot better if that's improved. And the homeowners can pay their share, the resort can pay their share. It's a win-win situation all the way around. I think it should be done forward. Thank you.
Couple more questions, then we'll call for the vote.
Okay, Ron Balmer, 537.
Okay.
If I understand correctly, the laws or the regulations are made so that permanent changes on that 3 feet are not okayed. I see pavers and rocks being not permanent changes. You're looking at different materials, but rocks are temporary and pavers are temporary. If one solves a problem, I just don't see that we're changing any of the basic regulations to allow that.
Thank you. One more question, then we'll call for the vote. This
Sherry
gentleman here.
Gilbert.
Sherry, you've already had one, so. I'd like for everyone to at least get one question.
Conrad Reveneg, 1150. I think one thing that hasn't been brought up yet, but I'm sure everybody pretty much knows, is that neighborhood itself as a part of the community is quite different from the rest of the community. It's a neighborhood of sidewalks. You can't drive up to your front door in most cases, and you have to drive a golf cart around in a lot of little spaces maybe to get in and out, but you have to walk from place to place. So the idea of improving walking within that community there is a good way to go, no matter how you look at it, I think. So the idea that Steve put forward there of taking another look at how we're set up in here, that neighborhood was made originally as a whole different type of community before the rest of this was built. And so considering the different kind of neighborhood it is, I think it's a very positive thing to do to increase the walking ability in that area. Thank you.
Right. It was also meant to be a temporary community. It was meant to be a temporary community also. It is not now, correct?
Madam President,
Yes.
can we, on that note, can we table this and until we do have an opportunity to go take a look at that area on our own?
Well, then you can run for the board and you can vote. Just look. Just as an FYI, regarding, Darlene and Mike are actually going to the villas on Saturday for your coffee hour or something like that, to sort of talk to them about aesthetics and other issues that might be coming up here, to get input from the entire community as to really what they'd like to see. So part of me would like to say, could we table both of these until they've been able to have that conversation and get conversation from that entire community to see if it's something that everybody we have as a board, and we too are individual board members, is that what we have, when we create a variance, it has to be that's going to affect everybody, not just one person, in that it's a variance for the right reason, not just because. At the same token, we know in our community how it started out. I wasn't here, but some of you were, in that the only thing we were allowed was a 8 by 12 shed. Now those are some absolutely 17, gorgeous 17-foot Arizona rooms. So things do.
Nice one.
So we do have the opportunity here. It'd be my preference that we not do just a onesie, two variance, something that looks more at the bigger picture. So
Madam President, while I agree with your philosophy and your argument, I hate to see this can kick down the road. And I think that my vote will be to move it forward with some kind of pressure to get these policies reviewed and changed in a reasonable way.
what I'd like to do then is call for the motion that's on the table. The motion on the table is to, excuse me here, is to approve the variance for lot 2171 for the brickwork on common area. Could I have a show of hands, all in favor of approving this variance on 2171? I'll do 3. Okay. All opposed? It does not pass. So what we will commit to, though, is that the conversation that Darlene and Mike will have with the group this Saturday, we'll start that, and then when I get to my president's reports, we'll be talking about a planning meeting at the end of this month. So it's not something that I believe is going to happen tomorrow or even next month, but it'll be on the short-term things to address. So for that, Marilyn, could you give us the motion on the second request?
I move to approve the variance for lot 2178 for artificial turf on common area property between the sidewalk and the patio. And again, we're talking about.
Could I get a second?
A variance. Is there a second?
Yeah. So.
And this variance would be for the purpose of improving the look of the property. And the area that's disputed is the fact that it is against the DRC guidelines, rules and guidelines, which, as you've heard the board say, probably does need to be looked at and reviewed again. But that's all I have to say on that right now.
So this is a request to have artificial turf between the house and the sidewalk. There's common area from their patio, then gravel, and then the sidewalk, and they're asking for artificial turf in the gravel area. Okay. Any comments or questions from the board members?
Again, on this one, I looked at it yesterday, and if you look at your picture 34 in your package, on that corner where that box is next to that post, when carts go back on that sidewalk, they kick the gravel out and they create a hazardous situation for walking there. And that's why they wanted to, that's part of the reason why they wanted to put the turf in there. They also asked, and I'd ask Mike or whoever is heading up that review committee to consider putting a triangle on each one of those corners to keep from kicking rocks out onto the sidewalk and creating a walking hazard.
You got to talk to the rabbits about that. Yeah. It's the rabbits, in my opinion, that are kicking the gravel. Any questions from any other board member regarding this request?
Well, there is turf also in the front of the villa. And I might note, are they Packer fans? Which is great, except we're not doing so well. So that's an area that's not really walked on, but I'm assuming we're using the argument that the rocks are thrown up on the sidewalk because of people with their golf carts?
No, I think that just there's a
They
lot of
want
rock
that to
out
look
there
nice?
and that there's a lot of astroturf throughout the community. Is the homeowner for this present? Oh, okay. Can we?
Sherry Gilson, 2178. It's also for aesthetics. I would like my home to look very nice besides the fact that it's a little bit of a curvature, embankment coming down to the sidewalk. And that's why so many rocks fly out onto the sidewalk there. And I know that you have given variances in other spots in the villas for turf.
We have, is, we have approved other variances for turf,
Yes.
artificial turf? Okay.
Yes.
It would have to have been on common ground because really the villas, most of their property is just exactly where the house is and the patio. Mike, you,
We do have other locations in the villas that have extensions onto common area property, yes.
I don't recall it coming to the board, but okay. With that, any other questions, comments from the board members? We do have a number of properties, non-villa properties that are putting artificial turf in. And I think that it does look nice. Questions, comments from the residents?
Thank you. Lucretia Chilcote, lot 2171. I am very thankful that a few of the board members came out to look at the properties that these two variances were asking for. I beg that the rest of you come to look at the villas. There are a number of people who've had variances for bricks and for artificial turf. It is a safety thing. It's an aesthetic thing. Our properties are very much different than the other parts of the park where you own and control everything around your house. In the villas, we have sidewalks and everything all over. The rocks that are there are getting stirred up by the wind. It falls on, because of the humping of the hills where the rocks are, the rocks fall onto the sidewalks. The birds peck the dirt in the early mornings and make the rocks go on the sidewalks. Our houses are in a sea of rock or cement, and we're trying to make them look aesthetically more pleasing and a nice place to live. And it's for the benefit of the park. Thank you.
Michael?
Okay, I'd like to ask, are we going to change the designation of these sidewalks to cart paths? Because they were never designed for golf carts to drive on. They're square cornered. You can't get around the corners without getting into the gravel, you know, and it's so, and we've accommodated a lot of places where we have put in and put triangles in, and so that some of those could be done and around some of the light fixtures and stuff that are out there. But I agree with Mike, and the fact is if we're going to change the designation of those things so that they're cart paths, then we probably need to look at that area as a whole to accommodate that particular infrastructure. Because right now it does not accommodate that. And a lot of the rocks are done that way. They get all that stuff gets transferred out on there. And the other big issue that we've had, and this is an ongoing thing that's been done ever since the origination of this project, is we have forgot about how to drain that property up. There are so many houses that have been flooded in that area because we have changed the drainage structure of that whole area. We've allowed those little sheds to be built in between there. A lot of those sheds are built over our utilities. We have to tunnel underneath there to fix those things. So we really need to get a good look at this before we just start willy-nilly and doing this and doing that. Because if we don't, we're going to end up with more of these houses that are flooded. When you put semi-permeous material on the ground, it changes the drain structure of that area. So that needs to be a real consideration before we grant all these different things about putting this over here and rocks over here and brick over here. If we can't drain it, you're going to drown. I'm sorry. You're going to ruin your properties. So that's just a consideration that needs to be made. And I don't disagree. If we're going to put golf carts on them, we need to facilitate that so that it can be done that way.
Right.
And it's not a short-term fix. I assure you.
Thank you. One more question from any resident or comment? If not, the motion on the table is to approve the variance for lot 2178 for artificial turf on the common area property between the sidewalk and the patio. Show of hands who are in favor of this variance. All opposed? Steve, did you? Well, the motion on the table is,
The motion on the floor, I will vote against. I think that we, as a board, need to instruct DRC to come up with a plan to meet with those residents and get some of these issues where there are not utilities resolved. Otherwise, we just keep going over the
Well,
same ground and
we-
it
we've-
makes no sense.
yes, but we have talked about that. That's what I've said, and they'll start meeting with them. So the motion on the table is to approve the variance for 2178. So all in favor of approving this variance as stated, raise your hand. You raised your hand before? Okay, all right. All opposed? And anyone abstaining? Ron abstained. Okay, motion does not pass. So the next action on this is that we will await that Darlene and Mike to have the visit with the residents there and determine what the next steps would be. And we'll move forward from there. There's no other action, no other variances or new business. So the next thing that I have is the president's announcements. So one of the things that, we've been talking about for a number of years, and we actually did have the survey, and I do believe that the results of the survey, the long-range planning survey, will help inform some of these various questions that we've talked about today, particularly what to do with the villas and some of the other areas. And so Wendy Holtzman, who is the consultant that we've engaged to do this, will be presenting the report on December 8th, Thursday, December 8th at 10 o'clock. We'll be posting that on our website. It'll be located here, and we encourage all of you to come and listen to the preliminary report that she has. The result of her preliminary report will then result in having a series of focus groups, of which you guys will be the members of the focus groups. You'll determine which ones you want to go to. The specific focus groups will come out of the results of the findings of the long-range planning. The second thing is that I want to announce is that we're listening sessions. We held the first one for this season a couple of weeks ago, and we appreciated everybody who attended. Going to change the format slightly in that we will have just it at one time on November 17th at 9:30, but we'll have two locations. One will be in this room and the other will be at the NC1. And the board will split up in half the board will be at one and half of the board will be at the other. That will keep the groups smaller, which is that our intent, and that not the same people come to the both meetings. The board will also be having a planning meeting on November 29th at 9:30, which is a Tuesday. Be after the DRC meeting. These are things that we try to have every month to talk about things that are on our work plan. And it is an open meeting. The residents will be allowed to attend, but any planning meeting, no decisions will be made. So we really won't be asking for your input much unless it's a specific question to a specific person who might have the answer. Marilyn and Marie have reviewed the names of all the people who volunteered to participate in the ad hoc committee regarding the rental, potential changes to the rentals. And they'll be communicating with the various residents who they've determined need to be on that committee and setting up times to meet on that. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is that we are waiting for our legal department to return the lease for leasing the Chuck Wagon to the Bison Brothers. And as soon as we get that and get it signed, then we'll be speaking to them about how they're going to transition to opening that. Right at this moment, I don't have any information. I know that they are eager to get going. So I would assume that we might see the whites of their eyes relatively soon. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Darlene. And Darlene is going to give a management report.
Yes, I just want to give a staffing update in the main office. Can you hear me? Just want to give a staffing update in the main office. As you all know, we do have some positions that have been open, As of yesterday, we have filled all of those positions. So we have someone that will be coming in to take Mike's position in DRC. Amy is currently our receptionist. We have promoted her to compliance/admin, so she'll be doing a little bit of both. So we can keep that as a full-time position, and we've hired someone to take over the receptionist position. And I think you'll all be pleased with our choices that we've made. That's it.
Great. Thank you very much. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, and then the board will be going into executive session to discuss some financials. So, okay, and second, all right. Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it.